We use what's called liveness authentication. Very key. Nobody is using that because it comes at a very high cost. Liveness makes sure it's a real person, real document, and we have a process using AI that does that for us. And there, we help with reports. So if FINTRAC auditor or examiner comes in and would like to look at a series of forms, we can provide a report or even give them remote access to only those forms.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our show. My name is Jenny Woon.
I'm Tony Singh.
And we have a guest on today, Simon Fiore, president of Forward Form Solutions. How are you doing, Simon?
Hi, Simon.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me. And how are you all?
Good,
Awesome.
thank you. Where are you located right now?
So I'm currently in Winnipeg, Manitoba, or just south in a town called LaSalle. And I've been here as an agent for 13 years in Manitoba, but we do travel quite a bit across the country as well.
So we brought you on because you have a fantastic identification and verification tool that is useful to all the agents who are part of the CREA program. Now, your company, Forward Form Solutions, I'm assuming that's just like an umbrella name, but one of the products you have is called Fintracker. So, but before we dive right into that, we have a question for you.
So we ask all of our guests this question, Simon. What is your superpower?
What is my superpower? I think my superpower is to recognize patterns in advance and try and stay ahead of the curve. That's what my team tells me.
That's a
visionary.
good one to have.
A visionary person. Do you know what your human design is? Like a generator?
My human design?
Yeah, generator, manifester.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. I should try one of those online generators. I just don't want to be told something that will stay in the back of my head.
Good.
Self-fulfilling
Good.
prophecy.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself as a real estate agent and what areas do you service before we head into Fintracker?
Absolutely. So as an investor back in early 2000s, I was renovating and selling homes and found that that was my passion and decided to get into real estate in 2010, where I joined a RE/MAX office here in Winnipeg and achieved all the accolades with RE/MAX, the Hall of Fame award in 4 years, and all the other great awards that come through RE/MAX. I've been a realtor for 13 years. I service basically Winnipeg and all rural areas around. And I was very fortunate to specialize in condo developments early on in my career. So was able to hone my craft through that traffic, that revolving door of clients that came through. And I was able to really learn those skills of building relationships, which is first and foremost what we do in real estate, right?
So what is your background in tech and how did you decide to develop and create Fintracker? What was the story there?
Well, that's a great question. I have no tech background, and that's the wonderful thing about Fintracker. I was a realtor who recognized pain points in the real estate industry, and mainly for myself. It was a selfish venture. I wanted to solve this for my little brokerage here in Winnipeg. So I approached a good friend of mine who was a tech software developer here in Winnipeg, 25 years experience. And we partnered to try and create a streamlined tool that scans government issued IDs and fills the form. That was the first concept. And yes, we failed miserably numerous times. And that is where my tech resume starts to grow. I had to really learn, what not to do on the second try. And we then evolved the application by listening to actually realtors, brokers, compliance officers. And that's why FinTracker is so successful. It's really understands the workflow of all agents and different offices. Where as a realtor, I've tried different apps and softwares, and I know that realtors weren't behind it. So that's the edge that we have is by realtors for realtors.
And so how many agents are signed up to use this service at the moment? Like how much
So
have you grown?
currently, at first we were trying to just get hundreds of agents to download the app, and we were giving it away for free. This was 5.5 years ago. And then we were called to Ontario, where we signed our first board. That's the Barrie District Association of Realtors. They took a chance on us and offered it to all of its members. And from there, it was a domino effect. 24 real estate boards have now taken on FinTracker. We're in the process of finalizing our deal with the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. As I mentioned, they have 75,000 agents alone. We'll be well over 85,000 agents under contract. And of course, not all of them have downloaded or used the app. As you mentioned, the active agents in our country are probably around 60%, especially in Toronto. Many agents will do 1 or 2 deals a year.
So basically, I guess when the board sign up for this service, it is up to the agent to download the app, almost like SentryLock, for example.
Yeah, we do a demonstration. We provide webinars, and many of the agents will download it after receiving those webinars. There are companies that we have across Canada, 3 main companies that mandate FinTracker. So FinTracker is the only way they submit their FinTrack forms, for example. There's also a company in BC that doesn't allow any of the forms to come in through any other channel than FinTrack. And that includes your DORT and DREP and DIRT forms. We have those as well in our application for BC.
When you say company, you mean brokerage?
No, I mean companies.
A
So
company.
we have
Okay.
3 national companies that have mandated FinTracker. To name one, EXP. If you join EXP, you have to use FinTracker.
Gotcha. Okay. And are you finding that these boards are charging the agents money, or is this part of the fee that we're paying to the board?
I'm sure the boards will include this under the tech fee that all boards have. But by billing the boards and associations directly, we offer the most aggressive price there. For example, if an individual agent was to download FinTracker through the App Store, the subscription with the App Stores is $29.99. So when we sign or license the software to the boards, we provide a very aggressive discount based on the agent count. And that varies.
Got it.
But it can range to, 50% off in some cases.
Yeah, it's a really smart approach rather than hitting every individual agent, because then they're like, well, we can still fill it in ourselves, or there's edible versions online that they're like asking themselves, why do we need to pay for a service like that? So having said that, can you guide us through the workings of your platform from like an agent's perspective?
Absolutely. So, and it has to be the easiest, most intuitive app on the market. You download the app through the App Store, you select your board, your company, and we'll synchronize you to your brokerage. And when you want to start scanning, there's one button on the main screen, scan ID, to hold up those IDs. And what we do is we capture those barcodes, watermarks, holograms on the passports, IDs, and licenses, etc. And we do all international documents as well. In some cases, We use what's called an optical character recognition scanner in some modes. In other modes, we just scan the barcodes with all the encrypted data in there, and it just fills the forms automatically. But FinTracker is not just one of these scan and fill gimmicks that are out there trying to compete in the space, and not to knock those, but we're more of a robust solution. We see ourselves as a complete compliance program. And what I mean by that is when you auto-populate those forms, we do not allow you to submit the form until all the mandatory fields are completed. So, and it's when I say intuitive, an agent will select a method and the application will revert to the required fields for that method. It'll force them to complete each field as required by that method. And we also then can submit directly to the office with one press of a button. All offices are set up with compliance officers, deals departments. We offer admin portals for their compliance or admin teams. And we also include the receipt of funds, corporate ID, and the dirt and direct forms, PNC for BC as well. And the wonderful thing I just want to point out for the agents can also ID clients that are not physically present. So you can send a temporary link to the agent's app, and the client themselves can open that link. It's a secure environment, and identify themselves by scanning their ID front and back and taking a selfie, which will then verify and authenticate that individual against the ID, minimizing fraud. And we can go on, but
So I have
that
a
is the gist of FinTrack.
question about that. 2 questions. First question is, if FinTracker is able to identify somebody not physically present, I assume then that gets rid of the mandatory section field in FinTrack, right? Where you'd have to use a lawyer or someone further away in a geographical location to identify the person.
Tony, thank you so much for asking that question. It's exactly what the remote ID process does. It replaces the mandatory. The mandatory is someone that you trust. It doesn't have to be a lawyer or a realtor. It just has to be someone you know and trust that can identify your client on your behalf. But trying to find someone in real estate is very difficult. And if you do find maybe a peer in the industry, you want to send them a Tim Hortons card. It's just a process. So with the remote ID, you send the link, takes seconds. You can send it via text or email. They open the link, scan their ID, answer a few questions, and the form is completed on your end.
Wow, that's amazing. You have a question too?
No, yeah.
My second question, kind of in relation to that, but I guess just overall in terms of the services you offer, how often does it happen where you guys are flagging something that is a red flag, where it's either money laundering or something fraudulent? And if you're flagging it, what's the process? Do you let the brokerage know, or do you have to report it directly to a compliance officer?
Yeah, so we definitely don't report to any government agency. I want to make that full disclosure. We work for the realtors and the brokerages. So we do have a tool, and I can't get into the details, that can assess some risk in that transaction and will notify or reject the transaction from taking place. For example, if an ID card is fraudulent and is trying to be used by the client who's not physically present conveniently, and that's where the fraud takes place, and they try and scan that ID, FinTracker not only knows that it is a real document, not a picture or a photocopy, and a real person. Why is that important? And this question will probably come up in our conversation, but I want to highlight it a few times. We use what's called liveness authentication. Very key. Nobody is using that because it comes at a very high cost. Liveness makes sure it's a real person, real document, and we have a process using AI that does that for us.
Wow.
So as soon as someone uploads and scans the barcode, and everything is auto-populated, does it also upload it to like a system like SkySlope, Dotloop, or anything like that, where there's a contract management system that the brokerage is using?
Another great question. So right now, yes, you can upload using basically an upload document to and select those document management systems. But we are working on an API, an integration that will be launched in the next, I hope by the end of the year, that will allow SkySlow and Next One and forgive me if I'm missing others, EasyMax, their document management systems to actually communicate with our app and automatically upload those documents into the FINTRAC section in those kits. We do right now have our own portal, and we highly recommend that we reconcile the forms there. For example, EXP, we use them as an example because we've created a copy and paste section for a FIN number or a hyperlink that takes them to the form in FinTracker.
Mhm.
And the reason we do that is we don't want to share this information with too many platforms, correct?
Yeah.
It is considered sensitive information. And once you export it out of FinTracker, we're no longer live.
Okay. Yeah, it does. Simon, what would you say the top 3 challenges are often when it comes to completing the necessary forms for a realtor during a transaction?
Yeah, the top 3 challenges is as an agent, I used to take a shortcut and take photos of my clients' IDs and store them on my cell phone. You're laughing because we all done it before.
I am laughing
And
because I've done that.
Jenny's
I
biting her
don't,
fingers
well, I
going,
don't know
I'm
what you're
guilty.
talking about.
It's okay. That is exactly why we created this application. In the same time it takes to snap a photo, you can scan the ID and fill it in a secure environment. So number one is getting the agents to do this at the first point of contact or when that transaction materializes. Okay.
Mhm.
So once they create the habit of using FinTracker, you scan and you can actually save it without completing it. You don't need the transaction property address, anything. Once agents know that, then they adapt or adopt FinTracker very well. The other challenge is that we're seeing is when we send the links to the clients, and we're working on increasing the troubleshooting tips for the clients. But when the client is not physically present and we're using a technology is not perfect. So the client has to watch the tutorial video. It's a 30-second clip showing them not to have a pixelated background like the one I have here,
Mm.
or make sure to hold their camera steady. And there are times that we receive reports and it'll show that somebody took half a picture of their face or a blurry photo of their ID and they're blaming the app. We have to go in and make numerous attempts. Those are some of the challenges we see in agents. We share that pain with the agents.
Mhm.
But we are continuously working on evolving the application. We're actually about to launch a fix for that, the client issue that we're having. And it happens, 1 out of 100 times. So it's not that common.
Mhm.
I'm curious, everybody, like when we're collecting the IDs and passports, clients are not too worried because they know that's part of the process of preparing the documents. Which is surprising. They don't really ask questions where it's stored, how's it going to be destroyed. Um, Knowing that you, as a real estate agent who's behind this product, have there been maybe skeptics or doubters who feel like, well, you're an agent. How do I know you're not going to steal my information, my client's information? Is the first question. And second question, I recently received an email from Life Labs lawyers saying that my information was stolen in 2019. And
I got
so,
one too.
Wow.
yeah, and I'm like, oh, I could get $50 out of this if I don't, if I decide to participate. So, I know it probably costs a lot of money and security. I don't even know what you call it, like what do you do to ensure that everybody's information is protected?
First of all, I don't know if that life lapse lawyers, it sounds like a spam to me if you both received it, but and then they're going to ask you to share your ID with them.
I haven't yet, but
No, me neither.
yeah.
But yes, we have spent, and that is the most important. Our number one priority is encrypting the data, masking the document ID numbers when they're reconciled. That is about to, I think now it's changed as of last week, when even in our storage center, we're masking them. We follow SOC 2 audits. We have consultants. We've been put through penetration testing to make sure that our info can't be breached. And yes, we have invested a tremendous amount in that. However, we continue to evolve that and make sure that that information is secure. Now, talking about the clients, we do get pushback on the remote ID. So the client is not physically present and we're sending them a link. It's the agent's job to explain why we're doing this. Otherwise, I need to hire somebody to come and identify you. And that is still an option. So FinTracker doesn't have to be the sole solution. If the client doesn't want to have a selfie taken so that we can compare and make sure it's a real person and compare it against the ID, well, then you're going to have to hire a manuary as a worst case scenario. Or there is also a method of dual ID. It could be grueling depending on the country that they're in. But we highly recommend using a technology. And if you look on the FINTRAC website, that is the first option they give you for identifying non-physically present clients using a technology that has the capability to authenticate and verify documents and individuals' physical appearance. And they're talking about FinTracker. We were the first doing it, and we have somewhat cornered the market, so to speak. And we don't like to look at ourselves as a product. I always say we're a solution, and we're quickly becoming an industry standard. I think it's just an old, outdated, flawed process that we have digitized.
Have you seen, or what kind of significant differences have you seen with the agents after using FinTracker, like in terms of number of minutes saved, efficiency, productivity? Do you have real numbers or real data on that?
So I don't have exact data here with me, but what I can tell you is even the toughest critics that were against FinTracker in some companies that had mandated it have become some of our biggest fans now. And the reason being is when they use the application, they see how user-friendly it is. Not only can you scan and save in less than 5 seconds, but if you're working with a client again on a second transaction, which we all do, right? We list a property and then we go and sell them another property when that home is sold or vice versa. And you search their name within FinTracker, you can recall the old form and we'll take out the transaction property address and you can reuse it. And that's allowed by FinTrack. As long as it was vetted and not expired the first time it was used with FinTracker. So that's another wonderful tool. But what we're seeing is being praised by the compliance officers that are saying, I can't tell you how happy we are to receive these forms and there's no missing postal code, right? How many of us have, I don't have the postal code here. Maybe you just took a shortcut. Abbreviated cities and provinces, apparently we can't do that for FinTrack purposes.
Yeah.
So we spell it all out. And the form is complete every time. And so that helps that brokerage keep their paperwork tidy. They don't have to go back to the agent, chase them to amend the form and send it back, etc. So it really helps all the checkpoints.
So how would you say that as a realtor, from a realtor standpoint, how does FinTracker best impact the seller or buyer that we're working with? Is it that we don't have to go back as many times, or what do you think?
So first and foremost, it protects the buyer from agents taking photos and storing them in their cell phones and joining platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and allowing access to their photo libraries. I hate to point that out on this podcast, but I have to. It's reality. And so first and foremost, we stop that bad habit. Number two, if we forget to ID the client and we don't have a tool like FinTracker, what do? We ask the client to email a copy or text a picture of it, or you have to drive across town to go and gather that document, look at it, and fill out the form. So it's a convenience, it's secure, and it eliminates errors in submission. So that's useful for everyone.
Who's filling out the occupation?
Good question.
Yeah. So when you send the remote ID link, if you're using that service where you send the link to the client, they fill out the occupation. If you're doing it in person, then the agent's responsible to complete the FINTRAC forms. The individual conducting the transaction should always be the individual filling out the forms. That's our best advice. We have a lot of team members that say, well, I have an admin. I send a copy of the ID to them and they complete the form for us. Well, is that admin asking what the occupation is? Are they acting on behalf of a third party? Are they politically exposed, right? These are all questions we have to ask. So slowly we're shifting those questions onto that remote ID service. And we see the remote ID as replacing FINTRAC forms in the future, allowing the client to register themselves. We understand that it takes time for our clients, Canadians, to warm up to this, right? So once we start using this and we are seeing those transactions increase, FinTracker has a proven track record, then we may switch to that to replace agents filling these forms out altogether. And that's my wishful thinking.
As a managing broker, what benefits do brokerages experience, in particularly like during a stressful audit? So one question I have is, does FinTracker alarm or notify the agent that the ID has expired? Because my brokerage, we have to make sure that there's a valid ID that hasn't been expired if the listing is still active, if we're still actively working with the buyer. So is there a notification on that? And also what benefits do brokerages have on this?
So great questions. So first and foremost, if the ID is expired at scan time, it will be declined. It won't allow you to scan an expired ID. But we have it in writing from FINTRAC and our consultants with the AML shop that if the ID is expired and for the second transaction, you can use that as long as it was vetted the first time with FinTracker using a technology to authenticate and verify. So it's you have to make an effort to update their home address, occupation, third party, politically exposed section. They may have become a mayor of some town. But the ID, if it's expired later on, but you have identified them with FinTracker when it was not expired, you can reuse it. And we stand by it. And we can provide that in writing to any brokerage. And you can check with FinTrack on that as well. Now, in terms of helping brokerages or what benefits there are for brokerages, in the event of an audit, if you're using FinTracker's admin portal, all the forms are there, fully completed, fully legible, right? Not chicken scratches or, and there we help with reports. So if FinTrack auditor or examiner comes in and would like to look at a series of forms, we can provide a report or even give them remote access to only those forms. So we assist with that. But what we can tell you is that we're starting to see FinTrack examiners go into offices that are using FinTracker and not spend too much time there. Let's say that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome. Real estate question. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I want to just highlight one of our features that we are bringing back, we were piloting, and it goes with what Jenny asked, is that we'll now be able to press a button and run the names through known fraudsters, entities, money launderers, and politically exposed lists. So it'll automatically generate a verification record that will be attached to it on the back end. And the agent does nothing but press one button called the AML check. That can also be done on the back end by an admin officer or a compliance officer.
Mm.
That's exciting. So a
Is it?
real estate, it is exciting.
It's
From a
finding it if you're
brokerage
working,
standpoint.
finding if you're working with a
A fraudster,
a
yeah, that would.
fraudster or
Ooh. Okay, that would be an interesting conversation. We have a real estate question for you. What's the market like right now in Winnipeg? And are there certain neighborhoods or sub areas that are outperforming the other ones?
Great question. I don't do too much real estate these days as I'm full on with FINTRACker, but my brother is a realtor and still active. I do keep an eye on the market. Winnipeg is the most affordable major city in the country. I mean, our average home price is around $400,000, I believe.
Wow.
Maybe just a bit over. Yeah. And so there are areas in Winnipeg, I can name them like River Heights, Tuxedo, North Kildonan. These areas are desirable. Lindenwoods. Of course, if the home is turnkey, you're still seeing bidding wars, believe it or not. But that is starting to shift with the higher prices.
Mm.
You're seeing homes sit on the market. But I believe that's going to change as well when you see the prices in other provinces.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some provinces, this is my personal opinion, some provinces with comparable weather, maybe those folks will start migrating to Manitoba and looking for more affordable homes.
What's
Not BC. I can't see British Columbia folks coming over here.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually have to look it up on the map. Where
My
exactly
aunt
it
lived
is.
in Winnipeg, and the winters, from what she expressed to me, were really awful. So I would not move there at this point. But maybe, like, there's a lot of young families that would. It's affordable.
Yeah.
So, Simon, you did mention this earlier, but just for our listeners, what is the investment required for a realtor to utilize your FinTracker program?
So, as an individual agent, you can download the app, and we offer a 60-day free trial so you can test it out. At the end of the 60 days, they're prompted to select a subscription, which is $4.99 monthly or $29.99 annually, which is half the price. With that said, within the 60 days, we usually receive a request to provide a demonstration for that agent's broker. And we provide a demonstration and provide an estimate for services for the whole office. And we provide an aggressive discount where then the broker can either charge it back to the agents or just cover it under the broker fees.
Mm.
So there's 3 levels of subscriptions. Individual, $29.99.
Mm-hmm.
On a brokerage level, on average, it's 25% discount for annual subscriptions per agent, and it's a pay for all. And then for boards and associations, it varies based on the size of that board.
Are you're mentioning, are you approaching the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver at any of the boards in BC?
So when we first started out, we were in BC and we were, I don't want to say endorsed, I have to be careful, by BCREA. They had sent out a memo saying this application may be able to help you. From my understanding, is BCREA is looking for a solution for their agents. And I hope that they revisit FinTracker, as we are a member benefit for 24 real estate boards across the country, and now TREB, which is the majority of the country. And I will be coming to Pacific West 2023 in October for their convention. We're an exhibitor there, and we're going to start visiting BC again now that we're finished up our work in Ontario.
Okay, and when is that conference happening? How can we
It's
find you?
the first week of October, I believe the 3rd to the 7th or 4th to the 7th. And yes, Pacific West 2023.
What exciting developments? What exciting developments can we anticipate in the next generation of FinTracker?
Thank you for asking that as well, because we are constantly evolving the application. Right now, we're looking at check scanning to autofill your receipt of funds forms, potential deposits to trust accounts through FinTracker with integration with other apps.
Mm.
The AML checks coming back, that's key. And I know that seems uncomfortable for you to press this button in front of your client, but that's not how it works. It would happen later on. But you want to make sure that you're not roped into, illegal transaction. These fines can vary, and protecting the realtor brand is our number one priority, right? It's when you see these frauds taking place across the country and they put them in the newspapers. What do you see hanging on the front page? It's a realtor sign, even though a realtor wasn't even involved in that transaction. So we want to make sure that we give you the tools to do the job effectively and efficiently and avoid these. And that's what we'll continue to do as we continue to bring new features and benefits to FinTracker.
For someone signing up, how can they get started and initiate the process?
Very easy. Head to the app stores or fintracker.ca. Download the application to either your desktop, your cell phone, which reminds me, you can use this on different devices. So iPads, cell phones, desktops, laptops, you can access FinTracker through any of those. Download the app, take advantage of the free trial. If you enjoy the app, mention it to your broker. If they're not taking this on, then you can decide if you want to subscribe annually at $29.99. I should point out that on the individual subscription, when you're using the remote ID tool, when you send the link for your client to be ID, right now for the majority of Canada, it's $3.99 for that transaction. And that's because we are vetting the ID, we're assuming liability, and making sure the individual is a real person. And so there is a cost to that.
Okay. Okay. So just for our listeners, FinTracker is FINTRACKER. So there's a K added in. We always round out our sessions with 5 rapid fire questions. So these are just quick answers you can reply back to. First one's pretty easy. What are you enjoying the most this summer?
Honestly, this summer, I've enjoyed it most fishing, golfing, and enjoying my children for, it's been a long time since I was able to do that. I've been working very hard, but this summer I got a chance to do that.
Good for you.
Awesome. What are 3 words that best describe you?
3 words that best describe me. Hard-headed, hardworking, and diligent. All right, we'll go with those 3.
Awesome.
Well, you can't that's why you're Hall of Fame within the first 4 years, right?
Yeah.
With your brokerage.
I don't normally pat myself on the back. So that was a hard question. That was probably the hardest question you asked me today.
Best tool or gadget or toy you own under $100?
Boy, these are tough questions on the spot.
You don't like talking about yourself, do you?
No, I don't. Okay, asking that. Okay, under $100. My fishing rod. How about that?
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
That counts.
Can you get those for less than $100 these days? Yes?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Next question. What would another real estate agent be surprised to know or learn about you?
Probably that a lot of agents don't really know. Well, in my province here, we have, a tech community that is, I should say, agents here aren't ahead of times with the tech. They're always last. And I'll say that publicly here, but a lot of them don't know that I do this as a side job, that I travel the country and built this solution for the agents, for my peers. So hopefully maybe this is our first podcast we've ever done. Maybe this will spread like wildfire.
Well, thanks for coming on.
We're exposing you. I'm going to add this question in before I ask the last question. What kind of fish do you like to fish? Or what kind of fish are you fishing right now?
So in Manitoba, the best fish for eating is walleye, also known as pickerel. It's a wonderful white fish. Oh, and there's an abundance of it here. We have so many lakes. You can head north, fly in fishing, or I have a boat, so I take it everywhere. And it's wonderful, and it's easy to eat, easy to fill it as well, which means carve it up.
If you're not a real estate agent or app developer, what career profession would you be in?
I'd probably be a lawyer.
Oh my goodness.
I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah, me too.
No, my family, I have a lot of lawyers in my family, so that's why I say that. I'm always defending people. So my wife says you should have been a lawyer.
A litigator, perhaps. Yeah.
Well,
possibly.
Simon Fiore, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. And hopefully we'll see you at the Pacific West Conference later on this fall. Again, to our listeners, visit www.fintracker.ca. That's with the K. That's FINTRACKER. Thanks for coming on our show, and we appreciate your time.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been fun.
Of course.
We'll see you again.
Thank you.